Hi, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video, we're going to learn the 3 to 6 player Stella Dixit Universe, designed by Gerard Catillot and Jean-Louis Robia, and published by Libellude, who helped sponsor this video. If you've played the popular game Dixit, the cards in this game might seem familiar. After all, Dixit is right in Stella's title, but don't worry if you haven't played this game before, because Stella is a totally unique standalone game with its own twist on giving clues and making deductions. And all of the cards included in it feature brand new art from Jérôme Pellissier. So join me at the table and let's learn how to play. To set up, put these 2 board pieces together in the center of the play area. Now find the Dixit cards, which have this back, and give them a good shuffle. Then deal 3 rows of 5 cards each to the right of the board so that it looks something like this when you're done. The rest of the deck you should set nearby for use later. Now, for the sake of this video, I'm going to set everything onto a board that I have so I can move things around on screen a little easier during this video. In the spaces for them here, set these round tokens in order from 1 to 4, with the 1 on the bottom. Now find the cards that have this back. Most of these will show 2 words on the other side like this, but you'll find 4 numbered from 1 to 4, and some with white arrows. And these 2 groups of cards you should remove from the deck for your first game. If this isn't your first game, randomly draw 4 cards from the stack without looking at them and put them into a face-down deck in this area, returning the rest back to the box. Now, if this is your very first game, they suggest using the cards that are numbered 1 to 4 on their face, which you would stack face down in order with the 1 on top, which we'll do in this video. And again, the rest of the cards you return to the box. Each person now collects one of these personal slates, a lantern token, felt tip marker, and cloth in their chosen color. And in this video, we'll assume we have 4 players. Here at the bottom of the board, have each player stack their lantern token in any order. Just ensure that the bright side is face up, which shows this image. Now, on this scoring slate, record the names of each player here at the top in the column that matches their color. Then pick a first player randomly and give them what is known as the first scout pawn. And that's the setup. In Stella Dixit Universe, players will be given a word that they'll try to find represented in the picture cards on the table, secretly selecting the ones they think have a good match. Then players will reveal their matches one at a time, hoping at least one other player also agreed with them. The more matches you have with other players, the more points you'll potentially score, as we'll see. The game is played over 4 rounds, and each round is broken into 4 steps, starting with the associate step. Here, the player with the first scout pawn reveals the word card on top of the deck and then slides it under the top here. This is now the word clue for this round. Remember, we're using the starter cards, but if you reveal one of the regular cards, which have 2 words, use the upright one. However, if 1 or more players at the table don't understand the clue, or they just want a different one, the group can agree to rotate the card and use the other one. Now, having 2 words per card also means double the potential clues to play with. Have you played through all the words on one side? Well, flip the deck and play with the other words. Either way, with the word chosen, in this case, birthday, each player should now pick up their slate, and everything you're about to write on it must be kept a secret from the other players. Your slate shows the same layout of 3 rows of 5 cards each as found on the table. So this space here represents the card at that position. Now, we'll be making marks on our slates in a moment, but before you write anything, ensure you have the slate rotated so it's facing the same way as the card layout. In other words, make sure that the moon on it here is facing the same direction as the moon's position on the table. So with the way we have our board here, it means every person should have their slate oriented like this, with the moon here on this side. In other words, the person seated over here, they shouldn't hold their slate in this direction. They should hold it like this. With your board rotated correctly, it's now time to examine all of the Dixit cards on the table and find the ones that remind you of the clue word. Our clue word is birthday, so I'm going to try to look at each card and find the ones that remind me of this idea. And I can interpret this in any way I want. Maybe it'll be something to do with the atmosphere of the picture, the colors, the characters, a funny detail, anything. On my slate, I'm then going to secretly put an X into the space of each box that matches one of the Dixit cards that I feel relates to the clue word. You have to select at least 1 card, but no more than 10. So maybe I see this one, which certainly makes me think of a birthday party. Look, there's even cake on the table. So I'm going to put an X in the related box of my slate based on where this card is located in the grid. I also see this one, and although it shows what appears to be some skunks looking at perfume, it reminds me of kids looking into a shop window looking at toys, which is something I'd be doing around my birthday when I was younger. So I'm going to put an X in this one as well. And just like that, you mark off boxes until you're satisfied. Now, as we'll see later, you're going to be hoping that other players at the table also make some of the same suggestions. So you may want to keep that in the back of your mind as you're making your choices. What do you think other players might pick? But we'll see why that's important a little bit later. The main thing is that you must keep all of your selections a secret. So don't make it obvious which cards you're reacting to. When you're done making choices, pass your pen to the player on your left. This is just a way of indicating to the table that you're done. And then you can't make any more changes to your slate. But there's no rush here. Players should move at their own pace, and when everyone has passed their pens, this step is over, and now everyone can collect their pens back. Now we move on to the next step of the round, announce. Here, each player says how many boxes they checked off on their slate. Don't show your slate, just say how many. Everyone then places their lantern token on the matching numbered spot of this track. Once you're done, check to see if a single player is further ahead than any other player on the track. If so, they are said to be in the dark, and you flip their marker to what is known as its dark side. On the other hand, if at least 2 people are in the lead, no one is in the dark and everyone keeps their tokens on the light side. The effect of being in the dark doesn't come into play until the very end of the round, so don't worry about what it means right now. We'll get back to that later. For now, though, we move on to the reveal step of the round, which starts with the scout. And who's the scout? The player who's holding the first scout pawn. They will now point to just one of the cards on the table that they crossed off on their slate, being sure not to show the slate itself. Let's say I point to this one. Each other player now checks their slates and announces if they also put an X on that related box. If only one other person also chose that picture, then both the scout and that player have gained what is known as a super spark. Each of them now marks off all 3 of the stars beside the related box on their slate. We'll see the value of stars in a moment, but just know they're good to have. If instead of just one other player, several other players had also selected the card, then the scout and everyone who marked that box have achieved a regular spark. Each of those players marks just the 2 bottom stars beside the related box. That leaves just one other possibility. If the scout points at a card and nobody else has selected it, the scout is said to have fallen. No one will fill in any stars for that box, including the scout. Not only that, the player who fell will no longer get to mark off stars on their board for the rest of the round. Now that said, no matter what the outcome was, after the scout selection has been resolved, the player to their left becomes the new scout. Now don't pass the first scout token. That person keeps it until the end of the round. But you will keep taking turns going around and around the table, having each player become the scout, who then picks one of the pictures from the table that they've crossed off. Now here's the catch. You cannot pick a picture that someone else already chose previously. So when revealing one of your picks, you may want to choose one that you think has the best chance of making a match with at least somebody because you don't want to fall. As mentioned, you won't gain stars for any future matches if you fall. Not only that, your turn will always be skipped for the rest of this step. You still hang on to your slate though, because when other players are declaring their picks, if you also crossed it off, even though you fell, you have to let them know in case that helps them gain points for matching someone at the table. But again, you won't gain any points. Also, as you're taking turns, if it comes to a player and they have no more cards marked off on their slate that haven't already been revealed, their turn gets skipped for the rest of the round as well. And turns will continue like this until either all of the players have fallen or once any player who didn't fall has no more X's left to reveal on their board. Then it's time for the scoring phase. Here you total all of the stars you filled in and you still count any stars you filled in before falling if you did fall. So here, this player has filled in a total of 12 stars. Now each player adds their score to their space in the first round row here on the scoring slate. There is one exception during scoring we need to cover though. Remember, during step 3 of the round, we said that if a single player is furthest ahead on the board with their marker, they're said to be in the dark. Their scoring works a little differently. Let's say this player was in the dark. This means they had more X's marked on their slate than anyone else. Now, if they didn't fall, they calculate their score as usual and nothing changes. However, if they did fall, which means at least one of their crosses did not earn them any stars, like we see here, then in that case, they lose 1 star from every box where they did earn some. So it would look like this when they're done. Remember, you only lose stars from your slate in this way if you're in the dark. If you fell, but you weren't in the dark, you don't lose any extra stars. So you have to be careful. If you pick more pictures than anyone else during the first step of the round, you do have a chance to earn the most points. But if you fall, you'll lose points. So it's risky. Either way, once everyone's scores are recorded, it's time to end the current round. First, each player can erase their slate, and once your slate is clear, also make sure you move your lantern token to the bottom of the track, ensuring that all of these have their light side up again. Then flip the related round token here. In this case, we're in round 1, so we flip this one over, and it will indicate a row of the Dixit cards that you now discard. In this case, the bottom row. We would then remove all 5 of these bottom row cards. And then you would deal new cards to replace any that you removed. In this way, you'll have some of the old cards still, but also new ones as you head into the next round. The only exception is the final round, where none of them get replaced. Now you discard the word clue from the last round, and the first scout token is passed to the left. Then a new round begins, and rounds will continue like this until the end of the 4th round, where each person will add together all the points they scored for a final total, and the player with the most points wins. In the case of a tie, the tied players share the victory. I should also point out that the game comes with 10 blank word cards, which you can use to create your own word clues to add into your game. Also, because this game uses Dixit cards, it means you can use them in your games of Dixit, or use Dixit cards from other games you have when you're playing Stella. But otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play Stella Dixit Universe. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and clicking that little bell icon so you get notification anytime we post a new video. And if you'd like to support us directly, you can join our Patreon team, which I'll have linked below. But until next time, thanks for watching.